All right, so when I say the word translation, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's just, swapping words from one language to another. But today, we're going to peel that whole idea back like an onion. And trust me, what we find at the center is way more complex and honestly, a lot more amazing than you might think.
So yeah, let's start right there, with the most basic question of all. What do we even mean when we say translation? Well, this simple definition, the one we all kind of have in our heads, probably looks a lot like this next slide. And there it is, the most basic idea. You take a word, you find its match in the other language, and you stick it in the same order. Seems logical, right? It's simple. Except, for almost any kind of real, meaningful communication, it's just, well, it's completely wrong.
Yeah, because that whole simple word-for-word idea, that isn't the story of translation. It's not even the first chapter. Real translation is this deep, multi-layered art form. And to really get it, we have to start asking some much more interesting questions. So, you ready? Let's get peeling.
So our first layer of this onion is all about the what, the subject matter itself. Think of it this way. You wouldn't hand a complicated engineering document to a brilliant poet, and you definitely wouldn't ask that engineer to translate a legal contract. The content dictates the expert you need.
The baseline here is what we call general translation. This is your everyday stuff, internal company emails, some website copy, basic product descriptions. It's content that doesn't need a PhD to understand. So pretty much any skilled professional translator can handle it.
But then you take just one step up to a world like legal translation and whoa, it is a completely different ballgame. A translator here has to have a legal background. They need to understand not just the specific terms, but the complex legal concepts and the huge differences between legal systems all around the world. The point is, here, that expertise isn't a bonus. It's the absolute price of entry.
And that brings us to the very peak of this layer, literary translation. This isn't just about moving information from one language to another, it's about recreating a piece of art. It's about capturing the author's voice, the rhythm, the hidden meanings, the very soul of a poem or a novel. The goal isn't just to translate a book, it's to create a new book that feels just as powerful. And for that, you need a translator who is a gifted writer in their own right. All right, you with me? Let's peel back the next layer. We've talked about the what, now let's get into the why. What's the end goal here? What is this translation actually for? Because let me tell you, translating a simple Word document is a universe away from localizing a whole interactive app.
And this right here is where it gets really fascinating. On the left, with document translation, the words you translate are the final product. It's done. But on the right, with software localization, the translation is just one tiny piece of a huge, complex puzzle. It has to fit perfectly into the whole user experience.
And this just shows you how deep that rabbit hole goes. It's so much more than translating words on buttons. You're adapting graphics, because a color or a symbol might mean something totally different in another culture. You're literally re-engineering parts of the software to handle different date formats or currencies. And then you have to test every single thing to make sure the final product doesn't just work, but that it feels like it was made for you. It's a total rebuild.
Okay, let's keep going. We've looked at the what and the why, so for our third layer, let's talk about the how. And in our world today, this pretty much boils down to one massive choice. Do we use a machine or do we use a human?
This table really lays it all out. You've got machine translation, think Google Translate. It's amazing for getting the basic gist of something, right now, for free, but it's clumsy. It makes mistakes, and it can sound really unnatural. For anything where quality really matters, you need a professional human translation. And for the super important stuff, the things you can't get wrong, that's when you bring in the gold standard, a human translator plus a second expert who checks their work. There's no single best way. It's all about matching the right tool to the right job.
So we've peeled back the subject, the product, and the method. And now, we've reached it. We're at the very core of the onion. This is where we move beyond just process and rules and get into the true art of translation. This is the magic toolkit. Seriously, just think about it for a second. How would you translate a phrase like, "It's raining cats and dogs"? If you translate that word for word into another language, people are just going to look at you like you're nuts. It's bizarre, and this is where the real skill comes in. Professionals aren't just swapping words. They're translating the meaning itself.
The master tool they use for this is a concept called equivalence. And honestly, it's kind of like a magic trick. It means you have to completely let go of the original words and just ask, okay, what's the feeling here? What's the idea the author was trying to create? Then you find a totally natural, native expression in the new language that creates that exact same effect.
And this is my all-time favorite example of equivalence in action. To express that idea of something being impossible, what we say in English as when pigs fly, just look at these incredible solutions. The French say when hens have teeth. In Russian, it's when a lobster whistles on top of a mountain. The Dutch say when the cows dance on the ice. And my personal favorite, in Thai, is the beautifully poetic one afternoon in your next reincarnation. Nobody is translating pigs or flying. They're translating the idea of impossible. It's absolutely brilliant.
So, we've journeyed all the way to the core of the onion, and we're coming back out. After seeing all of these layers, how do we actually put this knowledge to use? How do you figure out the right translation for what you need?
Well, it really just comes down to asking the right set of questions. First up, the subject. Do I need a general translator, or do I need a deep expert in, say, law or medicine? Second, the product. Is this just a simple document, or is it a complex app experience? Third, the method. Is a quick, good enough machine translation okay, or is flawless human quality an absolute must? And finally, the art. Does this message need that creative touch, that reformulation, to really connect with a new culture?
And that brings us to one final thought to leave you with. We live in this incredible age of AI tools that give us instant and sometimes pretty good translations with just a click. But as we've seen, real translation is about so much more than words. It's about culture, context, intent, and art. So I guess the big question is, as our machines get better and better at just swapping words, where does that true human understanding actually come from? Something to think about.